A reading from the book of 2 Samuel. Today is October 6th. Our reading from 2 Samuel is chapter 16. David had passed a little beyond the summit when Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, came toward him with a pair of saddled asses, carrying 200 loaves of bread, 100 cakes of raisin, 100 cakes of figs, and a jar of wine. The king asked Ziba, "What are you doing with these?" Ziba answered, "The asses are for your majesty's family to ride on, the bread and figs are for the attendants to eat, and the wine is to be drunk by any who are exhausted in the wilderness." "And where is your master's son?" the king asked. "He is staying in Jerusalem," Ziba replied to the king, "for he thinks that the house of Israel will now give him back the throne of his grandfather." The king said to Ziba, "Then all that belongs to Mephibosheth is now yours." And Ziba replied, "I bow low, your majesty is most gracious to me." As King David was approaching to Bahurim, a member of Saul's clan, a man named Shimei, son of Gera, came out from there, hurling insults as he came. He threw stones at David and all King David's courtiers, while all the troops and all the warriors were at his right and his left. And these are the insults that Shimei hurled. Get out, you criminal, you villain. The Lord is paying you back for all your crimes against the family of Saul, whose throne you seized. The Lord is handing over the throne to your son Absalom. You are in trouble because you are a criminal." Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, "Why let that dead dog abuse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut off his head." But the king said, "What has this to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? He is abusing me only because the Lord told him to abuse David, and who is to say, 'Why did you do that?'" David said further to Abishai and all the courtiers, "If my son, my own issue, seeks to kill me, how much more the Benjaminite? Let him go on hurling abuse, for the Lord has told him to. Perhaps the Lord will look upon my punishment and recompense me for the abuse Shimei has uttered today." David and his men continued on their way, while Shimei walked alongside on the slopes of the hill, insulting him as he walked and throwing stones at him and flinging dirt. The king and all who accompanied him arrived exhausted and rested there. He rested there. Meanwhile, Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, arrived in Jerusalem, together with Ahithophel. When Hushai the Archite, David's friend, came before Absalom, Hushai said to Absalom, "Long live the king, long live the king." But Absalom said to Hushai, "Is this your loyalty to your friend? Why didn't you go with your friend?" "Not at all," Hushai replied. "I am for the one who the Lord and this people and all the men of Israel have chosen, and I will stay with him. Furthermore, whom should I serve, if not David's son? As I was in your father's service, so I will be in yours." Absalom then said to Ahithophel, "What do you advise us to do?" And Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Have intercourse with your father's concubines, whom he left to mind the palace. And when all Israel hears that you have dared the wrath of your father, all who support you will be encouraged." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom lay with his father's concubines with the full knowledge of all Israel. In those days, the advice which Ahithophel gave was accepted like an oracle sought from God. That is how all the advice of Ahithophel was esteemed by both David and Absalom.